everybody, I hope you're all doing really well. I hope you've had a really good month. I cannot believe that we are into May. Like, how has this happened? But today, let's talk about everything that I read in April. I've got my April reading wrap up for you, and I'm really excited because I feel like there has been some real good books this month. So let's just get straight on into it. So I've already spoke about this book. I did a separate video on Fearless by Lauren Roberts. I'll try not to talk about this too much, but this was definitely my most anticipated read for April. It came out second week of April and I was so excited because this is the third book in the Powerless series and it is the conclusion. So I could not wait to see what was going to happen in this series because Reckless ended on a pretty massive cliffhanger. And I have to admit that this book did not disappoint. I did really enjoy reading it. I did think it was initially a little bit slow, but then things kind of kicked off and things really did kick off. And I felt like there was a lot of action and I felt like there definitely was a lot more happening than what happened in Reckless. And overall, I felt like it was a good conclusion to the series and I was happy with the way things that had ended. There were a few things that I wish hadn't ended in the way that they did, and I don't want to put any spoilers in this video, but if you want to know more about what I'm talking about, I will link my Fearless video, which I talk about everything, and I like, there's spoilers because obviously I read it, but yeah, have a look at that video if you've read it because I'd love to hear your thoughts. But yeah, I did enjoy reading it and I had a great time reading it. It did make my heart hurt a lot. There's a lot of yearning in this book, which I thought was, a lot, but I really enjoy the characters and I love this series and I feel really sad that it's now come to an end. Let me know if you guys read it. What did you think about it? Another anticipated read for me, and I think this actually came out on the same day as Fearless, and that is Enchantra by Kaylie Smith. Now this is book 2 in the Wicked Games series. Book 1 in this series is Phantasma. I read that last year. I actually read it over Halloween weekend and it was one of my favourite books of 2024. I had so much fun reading it that I could not wait for book 2. Now book 2 is slightly different in the way that it is focusing on some different characters. So in book 1 we are focusing on someone called Ophelia, and she's basically ends up going into like these games. It's basically like a traveling haunted house called Phantasma that holds these games every single year in like a different city. And her sister Genevieve ends up going into these games and she follows her sister to try and like help her. So we follow Ophelia. In this book, Enchantra, we are following Genevieve and she has gone off to Rome to kind of find out a bit more about herself, to find out a bit more about her family. And she finds herself going to another big house called Enchantra, and she finds herself being kind of, the day that she arrives, she ends up being locked into the house and having to participate in something called the Hunt. So in this house is a family who reside there and they've all been cursed by a devil called Nox, and every single year they have to play out this game called the Hunt where they basically have to fight each other to the death. And she has been locked within this house, so even though she is a human, she now has to partake in these games and it's her journey. So it's quite an interesting journey because I was like, okay, how are we going to beat Phantasma, like with the trials and the excitement? But the Hunt was equally as exciting and I loved the introduction of the new family and the characters. They were also interesting and the romance in this book was really, really good. So we had a different romantic character. It was one of the characters, one of the family members in the house, and there was just so many tropes in this book that we all know and love so well. So we had like arranged marriage, forced proximity, kind of like reluctant allies to lovers. There was just so much good stuff. I just had a lot of fun reading this book. It was very easy to read. There was not a huge amount of world building. There was a lot of excitement. There was a really good slow burn. I just had fun reading it, and I feel like that is the best way to describe these Wicked Games books. They're just fun. Next up, I want to talk about Land of Frost by Whitney Welsh Gibbs. So I read this as an ARC, but it has now been released. It's on Kindle Unlimited. Now I was not expecting to like this book as much as I did. It gave me major Throne of Glass vibes. So if you loved Throne of Glass, then definitely check this out. In this book, we follow Maeve, who is a lost princess, and on her wedding day, she finds herself not only being stripped of her magic, but her whole family, the rest of the royal family, are murdered. She manages to escape. She's kind of rescued by a couple of like rebels who kind of look after her and bring her back to health. But yeah, she literally loses everything. So she's this very sheltered, naive princess who the kind of royal family have kind of hidden away from the rest of the world because she does have these magic powers. Without the powers, without her family, she's in this unknown territory, and she basically finds herself being sent off to this very scary, deadly prison where a lot of scary and dangerous monsters and criminals are kept, and she's being told that she is to train with an elder fae male to avenge those who have taken over the kingdom, to avenge those who have murdered her family, and to get her rightful place back on the throne. And it's basically her journey of like training and going from this sheltered princess to this brave, courageous woman, and her journey along the way. It was just really, really interesting. I love a story where the female main character kind of goes on a journey, because sometimes I feel like in these romantasy books, the female main characters are really strong and badass from like the beginning. So to actually see someone go on a journey, I just really like that. And I feel like it's a lot more relatable, and I feel like it's a lot more refreshing to read. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. We had romance in this book. There was a really good like enemies to lovers, slow burn storyline, which was also kind of like in the background as well, which was just so well done. We had a bit of spice, which was really, really good. But honestly, I just found it a really, really interesting story. Like, I was just so invested in her journey. And then the end of the book ends on a massive twist, and there's a cliffhanger, and I cannot wait to see where this goes next, because I'm like, oh my God, like, how are we going to get out of this situation? So another arc that I read this month is The Kingdom of Two Moons by Shannon Cave. Again, this has also now been released. It's on Kindle Unlimited. I literally finished this last night, so I've been reading it this past week. I had a great time reading this book. I was not expecting to enjoy this book as much as I did, but it was so, so good. I feel like this was definitely on the darker side of romantasy. So there were a few trigger warnings at the start of the book, so do check those out, because there's quite a lot of like violence and assault, but it was such an interesting story. Now, what I really loved about this book is it's mainly dual point of view. We do have different point of views, but it mainly focuses on two characters. One of those is called Blair. She's a witch, and she just majorly gave me Manon Blackbeak vibes. Like, from the first chapter, I was invested, because I was like, oh my God, this is Manon. Now, Manon was my favorite Throne of Glass character, so honestly, I was obsessed straight away. The other character who we focus on is Melody. She's half fae, she's half human, and she's basically the answer to like this curse. She's like a prophecy, but she herself has no idea like why that is. So it's kind of like her journey on figuring things out, but like no one's telling her any answers. She's wanted by the witches. Blair is trying to get her for the witches. She's wanted by like these dark angels who do actually take her. And these dark angels, oh my God, gals, these dark angels, they are literally like just a combination of all of our favorite shadow daddies all in one. Chemistry between all of these characters, I literally could not work out who I wanted to be with who, because they just all had like such amazing chemistry and slow burn. There was like a bit of a love triangle, and I just couldn't work out like who I felt Melody was more suited to be with. But yeah, there was a lot of tropes in this book that we know and love, like enemies to lovers, kind of fated mates. And there is just so many elements that I also love in romantasy. We also had like dragons and a bit of like bonding dragons at the end. Yeah, I just had a great time reading. There was a lot of twists and turns, and it's ended on a pretty big, not a cliffhanger, but it's quite an exciting, crucial part that's like, oh my God, like what is going to happen next? A book that sadly was a little bit of a disappointment this month was The Rival Crown by Holly Renee. So this is the third book in the Veiled Kingdom series. It's also the conclusion. And I really had such big hopes for this book, because I loved The Veiled Kingdom. It was one of my favorite reads of last year. It's just such a good romantasy. It's kind of like Fourth Wing vibes. It's kind of like a spicy Powerless. So if that's kind of like, you know, your bag, really easy to read. Male main characters very much like Xaden, got a really dirty mouth, like proper enemies to lovers. It was so good, I ate it up. But then The Hunted Heir, which is the second book, not much happened. There were some good points, but not much happened. And then like the last 10% of the book, loads happened. ends on a massive cliffhanger. And then book 3, I was like, okay, book 3 is going to be good. It's going to be good. It all kind of kicks off. And then I felt like for 60% of the book, nothing happened. Like literally nothing happened. And I was a bit like it feels like we're kind of coming up to something, but why is nothing happening? I just felt almost a little bit bored, and I was almost just like, I just didn't overly care. Do you know what I mean? About like what was going to happen. I ended up, Fearless came out about halfway through when I was reading The Rival Crown. So I stopped reading it to read Fearless. And then once I finished Fearless, part of me was like, I don't even know if I can be bothered to pick this book back up and finish it. But then part of me was like, come on, it's the last book in this series. Let's finish it. Let's get it done. But I really did have to force myself to finish it. The final book that I read in April is completely different to the rest of these books. I turned to the Cowboys. So I read Reckless by Elsie Silver, my first cowboy Elsie Silver book. And honestly, I had a great time reading this. Did I read it during ovulation week? Yes, I did. But I feel like these are perfect ovulation books. If you're looking for just some spicy fun with some cowboys, then honestly, what is not to like? It's the second book in the series, but I didn't really feel like I needed to have read the first book because it's kind of like a recap, and it kind of seems like their own kind of stories within each other, but they kind of interlink. So yeah, I didn't really feel like I'd missed anything by not reading the first story, but I had a lot of fun. It was very easy to follow along. I basically read all of it in like one night. It was just so easy to like binge, and yeah, I had a great time reading it. So I think these books, like, I want to read more of them. And there's also the other Elsie Silver series, is it like Wild One or something? I want to read those too, but I just don't have a burning desire to like read them all like right now. Like there's so many romantasy books I want to read, but I feel like these are really good like palette cleansers. So I think, you know, maybe when I am ovulating, like maybe when I'm having, like, I just need a bit of a palette cleanser where maybe I just want to read something quite easy, something quite fun, something that's not really hard to get into, because as much as I love a romantasy, they are initially quite difficult to get into, and there's usually quite a lot of like world building. So yeah, so I feel like these will be great palette cleansers. That's everything that I read in April. I don't really feel like I read that much, but I still did read quite a lot. But it has genuinely been a good month. It's definitely been a good month for romantasies. I had a great time reading Enchantra, Kingdom of the Two Moons, Land of Frost. Fearless, so good, and I'm excited about my May reads. So what I'm thinking at the moment, my May TBR, I started last night The Lies of Lena, which I've been recommended quite a few times. A little spicy romantasy, so I'm reading that. It's very easy to read. I've already read like 35% of it like in one night. So that's on the list. I'm also going to read Our Infinite Fates. I got that from Waterstones the other week, and it's going to be my book club on Fables read of the month, so I'm excited to read that. I also really want to read Heavenly Bodies, and also like The Crimson Moth. That is still on my TBR as well, and I've got a couple of arcs that I probably also need to try and power through on my Kindle. So yeah, I mean, to be honest, I feel like I used to always make like a TBR for the month, and then I'd kind of get annoyed when I didn't stick to it. Like, I am a mood reader, and I kind of finish a book and then I'm like, okay, where am I going to go from here? Like, there's no point me trying to make a list because I just can't seem to stick to it. So yeah, that's kind of what I'd like to read, what I've kind of got in my head, but who actually knows if I'll read those. And let me know what you've been reading this month. I would absolutely love to know. Let's get some more books added to our TBR, and I'll see you very soon in my next video.